Numbers 33. These are the journeys of the sons of Israel by which they came out from the land of Egypt by their armies under the leadership of Moses and Aaron. And Moses recorded their starting places according to their journeys by the command of the Lord, and these are their journeys according to their starting places. And they journeyed from Ramses in the first month, on the 15th day of the first month. On the next day after the Passover, the sons of Israel started out boldly in the sight of all the Egyptians, while the Egyptians were burying all their firstborn, whom the Lord had struck down among them. The Lord had also executed judgments on their gods. Then the sons of Israel journeyed from Ramses and camped in Succoth. And they journeyed from Succoth and camped in Etham, which is on the edge of the wilderness. And they journeyed from Etham and turned back to Pi-Hahiroth, which faces Baalath-Hasan. And they camped before Migdol. And they journeyed from Hahiroth and passed through the midst of the sea into the wilderness. And they were 3 days journeying in the wilderness of Etham and camped at Marah. And they journeyed from Marah and came to Elim. And Elim there were 12 springs of water and 70 palm trees, and they camped there. And they journeyed from Elim and camped by the Red Sea. And they journeyed from the Red Sea and camped in the wilderness of Sin. And they journeyed from the wilderness of Sin and camped at Dophkah. And they journeyed from Dophkah and camped at Alush. And they journeyed from Alush and camped at Rephidim. Now it was there that the people had no water to drink. And they journeyed from Rephidim and camped in the wilderness of Sinai. And they journeyed from the wilderness of Sinai and camped at Kibroth Hattaavah. And they journeyed from Kibroth Hattaavah and camped at Hazeroth. And they journeyed from Hazeroth and camped at Rithmah. And they journeyed from Rithmah and camped at Rimmon Perez. And they journeyed from Rimmon Perez and camped at Libnah. And they journeyed from Libnah and camped at Rissa. And they journeyed from Rissa and camped at Kehelatha. And they journeyed from Kehelatha and camped at Mount Shephar. And they journeyed from Mount Shephar and camped at Haradah. And they journeyed from Haradah and camped at Mechaloth. And they journeyed from Mechaloth and camped at Tahath. And they journeyed from Tahath and camped at Terah. And they journeyed from Terah and camped at Mithkah. And they journeyed from Mithkah and camped at Hashmanah. And they journeyed from Hashmanah and camped at Moseroth. And they journeyed from Moseroth and camped at Bene-Jacan. And they journeyed from Bene-Jacan and camped at Hor-Hagadad. And they journeyed from Hor-Hagadad and camped at Jotbathah. And they journeyed from Jotbathah and camped at Arabana. And they journeyed from Aronah and camped at Ezion-Geber. And they journeyed from Ezion-Geber and camped in the wilderness of Zin, that is Kadesh. And they journeyed from Kadesh and camped at Mount Hor at the edge of the land of Edom. Then Aaron the priest went up to Mount Hor at the command of the Lord and died there, in the 40th year after the sons of Israel had come from the land of Egypt on the first day in the 5th month. And Aaron was 123 years old when he died on Mount Hor. Now the Canaanite, the king of Arad, who lived in Negev in the land of Canaan, heard of the coming of the sons of Israel. Then they journeyed from Mount Hor and camped at Zalmanah. And they journeyed from Zalmanah and camped at Punon. And they journeyed from Punon and camped at Oboth. And they journeyed from Oboth and camped at Abarim at the border of Moab. And they journeyed from Ayim and camped at Dibon-Gad. And they journeyed from Dibon-Gad and camped at Almon-Diblaim. Sorry. And they journeyed from Dibon-Gad and camped at Almon-Diblaim. And they journeyed from Almon-Diblaim and camped in the mountains of Abarim before Nebo. And they journeyed from the mountains of Abarim and camped in the plains of Moab by the Jordan, opposite Jericho. And they camped by the Jordan from Beth Jeshemoth as far as Abel Shittim in the plains of Moab. And then the Lord spoke to Moses in the plains of Moab by the Jordan opposite Jericho, saying, Speak to the sons of Israel and say to them, When you cross over the Jordan into the land of Canaan, then you shall drive out all the inhabitants of the land from before you, and destroy all their figured stones, and destroy all their molten images, and demolish all their high places. And you shall take possession of the land and live in it, for I have given the land to you to possess it. And you shall inherit the land by lot according to your families. To the larger you shall give more inheritance, and to the smaller you shall give less inheritance. Wherever the lot falls to anyone, that shall be his. You shall inherit according to the tribes of your fathers. But if you do not drive out the inhabitants of the land from before you, then it shall come about that those whom you let remain of them will become as pricks in your eyes and as thorns in your sides, and they shall trouble you in the land in which you live. And it shall come about that as I plan to do to them, so I will do to you.